And welcome back to Fully Equipped. J-Well, RB, Serial Killer, Uncle Gene. Another week, more gear. Boys, how we doing?
We have gear to talk about this week. I'm stoked.
We have some good gear to talk about.
Absolutely.
We've got some stuff. We've got obviously big week. I mean, you were there, Jonathan, so I'm ready to ask you all the questions and get the scoop. But I mean, there's a lot going on. We're going to ask you questions, and I think we have some callers to finalize our part two of asking us some questions as well.
Yeah, we are going to do the second half. Uncle Gene, how are we doing? You're just sitting over there quietly.
Well, I'm dying to know what the scoop is on this Titleist GT series. So explain away. Give us your inside dope.
Yeah. So this is the same. Although I do find this very funny. So nobody out there. I shouldn't say nobody. A lot of people don't know the cadence for products. So Titleist is on an every other year cadence for their products. So this is a driver year. Next year would be an iron year, and it alternates. Same thing for Vokey wedges. This is last year was Vokey SM10. This year will be a Pro V1 year. So this is the way that they alternate. They've done it like this. As I said, they're Swiss-like in their precision. Titleist. You can always count on them to release products in the same cadence. Although people are constantly on social media, I was looking at it and everybody's like, wait a second, I'm confused. Didn't Titleist just release a driver? And then somebody's like, well, wait, when are the new irons coming out? And I just had to get a chuckle out of that because it's always like this, guys. It's an every other year cadence. That's what people like about Titleist is when you buy a driver, you know that for the following year, your driver's still going to be quote unquote new. And then the following year, they bring out something else. And I don't know if people are just like clamoring for something different, but Titleist doesn't release things that are markedly different. Yes, the face technology going back to TSI and like the Titleist Speed Project, that was a big change for them. But for the most part, the look of the driver at address, there might be subtle changes, but they're not going to make a massive overhaul like you're going to see from other OEMs. And some people are already crowing about the new GT that's out on tour this week. Like, it doesn't look any different than the TSR. And having spent time today on the range at Muirfield Village with the pros, they like that. They like the fact that when they set the driver down, I'll get a little bit more into standing behind and watching Peter Malnati and Billy Horschel test drivers. But these guys don't want to see something that looks crazy different than what they currently have in the bag. They already have TSR. They like the driver. They're looking for small incremental improvements. So let's start from the beginning. Again, driver year, new GT products out, and Titleist has unloaded the clip. So everything is out this week for Memorial. There is a GT2, GT3, GT4. So that's replacing TSR2, TSR3, TSR4 on the driver's side. And then there's also a GT3 wood or a fairway wood and a GT3. So GT2, GT3 on the fairway wood side. Nothing else. I know that the Titleist come out with with the more souped up plus version of the TSR2 in the fairway. Didn't see anything else beyond those two fairway options right now, but I'm sure there might be some new stuff coming down the pipeline. The cool thing that I absolutely love about watching pros hit is you can tell when they really like something about a new product. And I'm standing behind listening to Peter Malnati, and he's talking to the Titleist folks. And I turned to one of the guys and I said, man, that thing sounds different. It's got a richer, fuller sound to it at impact when you hit it well. And some people might call that like a more solid hit. Some guys might call it muted. I don't know, but it sounds really good coming off the face. And Peter Malnati, I kid you not, right after I said this to the guy, he goes, wow, that sounded really good. And Billy Horschel, same thing. He said, he went all the way back. He's like, I remember hitting the Ping Rapture driver. And he's like, and that thing sounded really good. And I actually had a chance to talk to Billy after his testing session. And he's like, I said, when was the last time you had a driver that sounded this good? And he's like, the TSR in my bag right now sounds really good. He's like, but if I'm kind of splitting hairs here, the this new GT sounds a lot like the Ping Raptor. He's like, I actually had a PXG driver that had a pretty similar sound. He's like, but it just sounds really solid coming off the face. And he goes, and the one other thing that I really like is for him, he likes the ball to hang on that face a split second longer, because he says he can feel where that ball is, and it feels like he can control the face more when that ball hangs on there. And he says it's a little bit more old school, kind of going back to like the Bellata days, but he likes when that ball can hang on the face. And some golfers out there might be listening to this going, what the hell is that? This is when you get to like that elite or that single digit level, you can start to perceive things a little bit differently than maybe a 15 handicap would hitting the driver. And that's one of those things that he loved. So right off the bat, guys are talking about the feel of this driver, the sound of this driver. A lot of the variables that from golfer to golfer might be different, but so far the general consensus is this driver sounds good, this driver feels good.
Now, was that sound driven by material differences? Have they did when you picked one up, did you go, is there carbon on this? Because I know I was digging around the patent stuff, and they've got some new people kicking around there in their metalwoods department and irons department. So I'm very curious if that's going to be one of the reasons why, because to have a true sound difference, right? Obviously, like the geometry is pretty similar. So is it an internal thing? Is it a materials thing? Did they say anything about that, or did they just be like, it's the new one?
Yeah, I mean, RB, you and I are thinking the same whenever I'm standing behind a guy listening to him, and I'm going, man, what's going on with this thing? Why does it sound different? So one of the things that I did notice, and we posted a full complement of photos. If you go to golf.com, typically we'll write up a story and we'll kind of hypothesize like the why behind these new products and what's going on. And we, sometimes I would say usually, because RB and I have been doing this for so long, we're generally pretty close. But this time I was like, you know what? I took all these pictures. I don't ever really share all the different angles. So we posted everything up on golf.com. So if you go check it out, we have all the drivers. I took shots from every angle, from address, face on, from the sole, a little bit if there was, the SureFit CG weights that were repositioned. I was trying to get some zoom in shots of those. Did the same things for fairway woods. The one thing that I did notice, if you go and look at those pictures, take a look at kind of the perimeter of that driver, and you'll notice that there are some new, I'm guessing that they're probably like carbon sections that are along the perimeter. And my guess is that those are used to remove weight from areas where they can save it, and they're putting it back into other areas. So maybe that's going to improve the feel of the driver face. Maybe it's going, as we'll kind of just dive into. And again, we're going to get into doing voicemails on this, but this is a Titleist driver release, and I figured people are curious about that. But if you look at the TSR3, and then you now look at the GT3, they've changed the position of that SureFit CG track. So on the TSR3, that track is going all the way along the back perimeter of that driver head, and they've since moved it all the way forward. So my guess is that they're trying to do some things with launch and spin there, and they figured something out. And I think what they figured out was that they could remove weight by having this, I'm assuming it's some sort of a carbon material along the back perimeter of this head, and that allowed them to move that track way forward. So I'm very curious. The face looks very similar to the ATI 425 that we've seen in the past, but there are some things that the guys were seeing, like Horschel today. He said that he typically is like a guy who cruises around, the like 112, 113, and he said because of the aero package, which, nobody's telling me anything. I'm getting a lot of this from the pros. So there are some aero changes. He said he was like 115, 116, cruising. He was typically like 173, 174. Horschel said he was cruising at 177, 178 at times.
Wow.
With this driver.
That's really impressive.
Yeah. So ball speed up in a big way. And these guys are dialed in like crazy. So this is important when you're hearing the tour pros say they're picking up, 2, 3, maybe 4 miles an hour ball speed. They're seeing club head speed increase. And the biggie here, guys, was both Malnati and Horschel today. And the big takeaway for me was the Horschel comment. He hit one low on the face, and Liam McDougall, who is the head of Titleist Tour over on the DP World Tour, asked him, he said, what do you think that spun? And he's like, low on the face. He's like, that's probably about, I'm guessing like 29. And Liam looked at him, he goes, that was 24. And
Wow.
Horschel and I talked about this, the spin delta, and we talk about this all the time, guys, because this is where we've talked about it with robotic testing with Gene. If you can tighten up the spin delta on your misses in relation to those shots you're hitting out of geometric center, so a perfect shot in relation to like a low shot, and we saw this with some of the 10K drivers. If you can tighten up those spin deltas, you're going to see more distance. You're going to see more consistency. And that's what Horschel was seeing. That's what he told me about after the session was like, I'm seeing noticeably tighter spin deltas across the whole face, even when I'm going after it. So there's a lot going on with these drivers, a lot of positives. This is just day one that they're out on tour. But I mean, I heard Will Zalatoris, it's in the bag for Will Zalatoris. Ben On's going to play it this week. Peter Malnati sounded like he might play it. Billy Horschel was definitely leaning towards playing it. So right out of the gate, you could see a bunch of guys in a limited field at that playing the new GT product.
Well, the interesting thing, I'm dying to test these, obviously, is just to see where they fit in the profile, because so many of these OEMs have kind of planted their flag, like PXG, super low spin, Ping, and Cobra with forgiveness, and Callaway with kind of a higher launch, low spin package, but also with their triple diamond forgiving for that, and TaylorMade with the max and forgiveness. And so I'm just really interested to see, because of the three models, have they taken, or are they on the same track, or are there subtle differences between the three, or are there massive differences? And then I got to back up, and J-Wall, and I'll throw it out to you, everybody. What's Horschel talking about? It's staying on the face longer. Like, that makes my head hurt. I mean,
it's Tour Pro speak, Gene. Don't overthink it.
I know, but it's like, especially with faster ball speed, that means it's staying on the face less, not more. So it's like, what?
It's more. It felt like more. What he was saying is it allowed him to have more control, even though it was faster. He felt like he can control the face more. Like that ball was just hanging there a split second longer, where it's like, all right, my face is maybe a touch open. Okay, that ball's right there. I feel like I can close it just a fraction longer to get it going straight. It's a comment that a Tour Pro has to say. I wouldn't look too much into it. I think it's just him saying that I feel like I have more control. This is a feeling with the driver that I want to have, and now I have it back. And now that I have it back, I feel like I can go after it. Because I was watching him. He was taking some massive cuts. Once he got to 178, he told the guys, he's like, hey, look, I don't remember ever getting to 180 ball speed. And so he just started taking some massive cuts at the ball to try and get to 180. He didn't get to 180, but he was trying. He was definitely trying. They're like, hey, Billy, we got to hit some fairway woods here, bud. And Billy just kept trying to take cuts with the driver.
I just love to try to break these comments down and explain them from a physics standpoint. And, maybe one answer would be that it minimizes side spin. And, by minimizing side spin, he doesn't have those snap left on him or whatever his miss is. And so therefore he has more confidence in it. And when these guys have more confidence in it, they usually swing faster. There's no real magic bullet, but it's really fascinating to hear that tour speak and then kind of try to break it down in my world as to what's going on. And if you can look for clues, like when you hit slightly off center, is side spin minimized, and therefore directional tendencies are straighter, and therefore confidence increases, and therefore they swing faster and they hit it longer.
I feel like it's an acoustic thing where people say like, oh, that iron feels so soft. And if the which we talked about, the sound, like if it is more muted slightly, even just like a small amount, and they're feeling that difference or they're hearing that difference, it could feel like it's staying on the face longer. And it's a good point, like about control, right? I mean, for a tour player, you know, they're talking about what they think they perceive, obviously not what's actually happening. But control is definitely a big thing. And another way for golfers out there to control the moment of impact, which Billy's talking about on the other end of the bag, is with a reverse taper grip from Golf Pride. Because we have to let you know that Fully Equipped is brought to you by the lovely people at Golf Pride. And actually, last week I was just down at their big HQ down in Pinehurst. It was fascinating. It was great to go visit and see the team there. And when I was there, again, I got to see the full selection and watch a whole bunch of other golfers as well go through the process of trying out their reverse taper grip. And if you haven't heard about this before, and a lot of the people who were there actually hadn't either, reverse taper means exactly what it sounds like. It is the fatter part of the grip is on the bottom and the thinner part is on the top. What this helps do is it kind of puts that top hand as the steering wheel, as they like to put it. And what it does, it stabilizes both hands and helps players control that moment of impact, like we said just before, impact better when compared to a parallel style putter grip, which means you're hitting more putts online and hopefully down the line helps you sink a few more putts as well. That part's editorialized. I can't tell you that you're going to drain more putts, but I can tell you that it could potentially help you drain more putts, as they say. If you want to learn more about this, you can go to golfpride.com. But before you do, remember that there are also a whole bunch of other full swing grips as well. And when we talk about these profiles, there is 3 different profiles in 2 different sizes, medium and large. Sounds like a Seinfeld bit because there's no small. But we've got the round, which works for universal gripping, whether you're right hand, left hand low, or whatever, how you want to term that, talking about from right-handed golfer. The pistol style, which has a flatter style pistol kind of at the top of the grip, which helps it really lock into your top hand. And then there's the flat style, which works great for golfers who might prefer more of a parallel style putting grip or what's considered palm to palm. So again, if you want to learn more about the reverse taper grips, you can head to golfpride.com to learn more about them, as well as their entire array of full swing grips as well.
There we go.
Smooth as always.
Yes, exactly. Smooth as always. And we'll have more on GT. This is just, again, I'm here this week at Memorial, get an initial reaction. Limited field event, so you won't see a ton of guys. But, oh, hey, by the way, RB's going to be at the US Open next week. So I'm sure he'll have some more intel from Pinehurst on guys that are switching, or maybe even potentially testing the week of the US Open. I can't imagine anybody's going to test the week of the US Open, but you never know. I still remember the year at Shinnecock when I was there, and lo and behold, they decided to release a driver that week, the week of a US Open, and guys switched to it. It's like it was nothing. But anyway, okay. So as I mentioned, we are doing the second part of the Fully Equipped Hotline. If you want to leave us a voicemail, and a lot of you did last week, so thank you. It's 602-935-4974. Again, that is 602-935-4974 to leave us a voicemail. As I mentioned last week, I think maybe this is why a lot of people called in. We are giving away a Cobra Dark Speed Volition driver. It is a $650 driver to the best call-in. So far, I had 2 written down. I had Matt from Michigan on the spin question, which I thought that was a pretty thought-provoking question. And on the lighter side, we had Jeff from Stillwater with his robot question. If Uncle Gene had his way, I'm pretty sure he'd go with the robot question. But we'll see. Maybe we've got some good ones this week. I would hope, because there were so many that Coach combed through them before throwing him out here. But we'll find out. Coach, what do you got for us?
All right. Well, you did forget Scotty from Dallas as well. His call in, which I believe you thought was Bob and SC. Well, Jonathan, we have someone named Shankopotamus, if you remember that name, and he
gosh,
is very,
yes,
very mad at you.
Oh no!
Ooh.
Okay, fellas. There's been a serious case of mistaken identity. So this is Brad from Tennessee, a.k.a. Shankopotamus, a.k.a. Scotty from Dallas. Bob from SC, really? You think that Bob from SC is funnier than me? Listen, I even asked my wife if I'm funny, and she told me yes. At least I think that's what she said. I wasn't really paying attention. Anyway, so I've never really been in a beef, but today I'm going to announce an official beef with Bob from SC. This thing's going to be bigger than Jack and Arnie, Phil and Tiger, Jay and Greg, even RB and the anti-rollback crowd. Bob, the takedown you're going to experience is going to be more glorious than a San Diego sunset. Gene, he'll tell you all about it. Anyway, hey, all seriousness, guys, enjoy the show. Love Bob. He's a great dude. Hope you have a great day. Sorry for the confusion. Talk to you soon.
Well played.
That was solid.
Well
I gotta
played.
say. And now all of a sudden, the not Bob from SC goes into the hopper for the driver. I really did, because it was so good, and Bob's was so well done that I just take it as a compliment. It's Bob from SC level good. So, but it's not Bob from SC. So that's my bad. All right, what do we got for number 2, Coach? I don't know if we can beat that.
I'm going to go ahead and get the Anthony from Kentucky requirement out of the way here.
We got to get one.
There was a few more from him in the hopper.
Wait, how many? How many did Anthony have?
4 in addition to the 6 from last week.
We love you, Anthony.
Thank you, Anthony, for listening.
This one actually, I wanted to hear your guys' reaction to. It's a pretty solid question, so I'll just let him do his thing.
Hey guys, it's Anthony from Kentucky. Just a question on putters. It seems like, on the men's tour, you see a lot of different iterations of putters, whether it be a long putter, arm lock, the claw. Why don't we see that on the women's side of the game as much? And then seems like on the women's side, we see a lot more center shafted putters than you do on the men's side. I'd just like to hear your comments on those 2 things. Thanks. Bye.
That's a really good question.
That's a great question, and I believe there is one woman on the PGA or LPGA tour that uses a long putter. I am blanking on the name right now, but I recall seeing it not too long ago, which is why it stood out. I was like, oh, that's actually like a long putter. But as far as the center shafted one, I can't speak to that. I personally, like, I'm ready to hear Kris's take on this, because I know, like, as a Canadian, like, Brooke Henderson was someone who was a longtime ping player, basically grew up playing ping clubs. And when she went to TaylorMade, she went to another center shafted putter. And I think it's pretty interesting to see that and how she still uses it. And I do think that there are a few more on the LPGA tour, which is a good observation. Kris, do you have any insight on that?
I mean, really, I think it just kind of goes back to it's too easy to change. And as soon as something goes awry, I mean, you see guys just immediately bail out of it, look for the next best thing. And a lot of the LPGA players and competitive females that I have worked with and currently work with, like, they view an issue or a bad performance more internally, whereas a lot of the tour players will immediately kind of shift blame to, oh, it's a bad putter, iron, it was driver, it was a wedge, it was this, it was that. Oh, my golf ball is the humidity and the barometric pressure, and I mean, there's just so many different things. And I mean, I don't necessarily think that's a bad trait, but the guys, from my experience, are always searching, and they are very quick to change when something's not working. And I mean, you see so many staff bags when you go to a PGA Tour event surrounding the putting green with all of the tour reps that are just so eager to put something, in that player's mind that, oh, you really aim this well. Oh, the ball comes off the face so good, or you really start this online, so much better. And there's just so much availability that it is so easy to bail and try something else.
That's
And
such a great
then-
observation, Kris. Not to cut you off, but keep going. But that's such a great observation.
It really is. I mean, working out on the PGA Tour, working out with the LPGA, the Champions Tour, and I mean, you'll see it. You walk around the practice green, and there might be a bag or two of Odyssey putters for the LPGA. You go to a PGA Tour event, and there are 40 staff bags filled with putters and reps that want to tell you all about why you should change and make a jump into this newest, latest, and greatest fad or technology or shape or color. Or, I mean, it's just unbelievable. I know just from working with brand agnostic players that don't have a contract, like how difficult it is for me to keep them in gear that we know works because they have somebody chirping in their ear every single week about why they need to change. That's my 2 cents.
Do you remember the picture that I took of Mark Hubbard at the Byron Nelson? Did you guys see that one that I posted on social? He had, I kid you not, at least 10 putters just resting on his golf bag. And I think that to Chris's point, I totally agree. I don't think a lot of the some of the designs, like why isn't this one popular on this tour but it is on that tour? I think sometimes it's just because like we've talked a little bit about this, but the access to gear on the LPGA versus the PGA Tour, it's like the PGA Tour is light years ahead. They have so much more in terms of like what the pros have access to than the LPGA Tour, and that's just the way that it is. So sometimes I think maybe when you look at it and you go, why is this popular on the PGA Tour but not the LPGA? Maybe they just don't have a lot of access to it, so there's not the opportunity for something to take hold out there. I mean, shoot, look at Lexi Thompson. As a great example, she played the same S2 Cobra S2 irons her entire professional career. She's retiring, but she's going to retire having played the same irons for her entire career. Could you imagine a pro on the PGA Tour doing that? Because again, they have somebody, as Kris said, they have somebody in their ear who's talking to them. They watch, they listen. Those guys, whether they will admit to it or not, some guys will. They all talk. They know what's hot. And when something is hot, look at Ricky Fowler with the Versa Jailbird. All of a sudden, everybody wants to test it. Everybody wants to test the same build that Rick has. Wyndham Clark wins with it, and then oh my gosh, they couldn't even have enough putters to build. They couldn't even get enough lead tape to cake up the bottom of the sole of this putter. So they had to build a damn 380 to mimic Ricky's putter. So. Yes, you were bang on, Kris. I think that's the reason why. I just think it's just not the same access to gear. They don't have somebody chirping in their ear all the time, telling them to test something.
Well, I was going to make that exact point about the Jailbird, and then also the shift that we've seen with the lab putters. I mean, all of a sudden, there's a couple guys that start putting well with the lab putter, and then the demand for what was a little bit more of a boutique-y niche brand just skyrockets, and everybody wants a lab putter, can't keep them in stock, and can't build them fast enough. Like, it's crazy.
Yep. That's the way the PGA Tour works.
I was at a dinner party a year or two ago, and I was seated next to this woman, and she was a doctor, late 40s, early 50s, and she played golf at Stanford with some like real notable LPGA players, and she was like number 3 on the team. And I asked her, I said, why didn't you, try to make it on tour? And she goes, because I wanted a career. I wanted to be a doctor and make some money. And she's like, I didn't want to be staying in a Holiday Inn in, Kansas somewhere. And she goes, they simply just do not pay even close on the LPGA as they do on the PGA. And so that, you guys kind of summed it up. I mean, it's cold hard economics, but the OEMs chase the money, and the money is chased by viewership. And unfortunately, you just don't get the viewership on the LPGA, even though they play stellar golf, that you do on the PGA. So therefore, if the OEMs aren't chasing it, they're not getting access to it. And you do hear all these stories where they have to kind of hustle to get equipment. And so therefore, they're probably more like amateur golfers. When something works, they don't want to give it up and they keep playing with it. And that's why, and we've discussed this, and there's been a lot of kind of focus on it. It is paradoxical, because for an amateur golfer, if you want to find what works, especially based on some of your club head speeds, you probably should be looking at the LPGA more than the PGA, but that's just simply not the way the world works.
All right. Let's get to the next question, Coach. That was a really good one, Anthony. That's in the running now. I actually think it may be right near the top.
Don't tell him that.
We've had a four Anthony voicemail episode. We've had a 6 Anthony. I'm looking for a 10 Anthony. Give me a 10 Anthony. Let's see what else. Come on, I'm gonna goad him.
I have to screen these. Come on now. Anyways, this one I feel like would be right up RB's alley, so I wanted to make sure it's in here and get his opinion.
Hey guys, Scott from South Carolina again. I know this question's probably not driver nomination worthy, but just wanted to get y'all's opinions if there was any old school club building technique that you would like to see make a comeback. So like whipping for driver shafts or wrapping leather grips kind of thing. Is there anything that stands out that you think would translate really well into the modern era of golf that we're in now? Thanks for everything you do. Bye.
Interesting.
Whipping's a cool one. Whipping's a pretty cool one. I did learn to do it and like refinish wooden clubs, like persimmon clubs, laminate clubs, a long time ago. But it just was something that I learned and then never really applied. Complete shout out to Larson Golf on Instagram. He's just started. He's in Southern California and has started doing a lot of refinishing of persimmon stuff. It's really, really cool. He does the whipping. He's doing all the stuff. He's a wood shop guy. So
what is whipping for those for
those who don't know, that's a great sorry. So for those who don't know, whipping is where the steel, generally steel shaft, meets the club head on a wooden club. And that transition period from where it's like really small to gets bigger into the actual quote unquote club head at the bottom of the hosel, you'll see this wrapped winding. In most cases, it was done with a very fine like nylon string that would stretch a little bit. But the way you would do it is you'd wrap it around and then you'd kind of tie it underneath. And in some cases you could burn it and just like cut it off. Or what they would do is you would do that as well. And then you take like clear nail polish and just put a couple coats on it at the top to really kind of bind it in there. Or super glue, whatever you wanted to do. There's everyone had their old kind of school technique, which was kind of fun to see. But I still think, and this is why I harp on it so much, like my favorite thing to do, and this is why I always tell the way that you can tell a great golf club is the way it's being built, is the fact that the ferrules are turned down properly. Even some of the OEMs, in most cases, I'm talking probably, I want to say most of them, they all turn down ferrules, but in some cases they use snap-in ferrules that have a collar. So they snap them in, they can do a little bit of acetone, and they never even have to turn them down. And sometimes it's easy to you walk into a golf store. I'm not picking names here, and I'm not gonna say who does it better or whatever. But you walk into a golf store and you just start running your finger from the top of the hosel to the ferrule. And I'll tell you right now, you'll know very, very quickly which ones use a snap-in and which ones actually turn down their ferrules, because some of them will not be completely centered. Sometimes you'll feel a little bit of metal on the collar. And I would say almost nobody is immune to this. So go around. If the guys in the golf store start looking at you weird because you're just rubbing your finger up and down hosels, go ahead and blame me. But that is still one of those things that I put such a stress on. I'm sure, and I get things all the time where people are like, did you see the Tour built this from like a van? Or Patrick Reed had a driver at the last the PGA Championship. Someone posted a picture of like his driver hosel, which looked horrendous. but I think it was because it was a pulled shaft. And like a lot of these players, first of all, they don't care because they just know the club works and it's not a thing. But and the tour reps are working very quickly, and they're just they're worried about what works and not what looks good. But I'm always like, it looks good, whatever. And to me, it's still turning ferrules is kind of one of the biggest ones. But whipping's cool. You're never going to get it again. But I do think that a high quality ferrule looked great 60 years ago. Still looks great the day it comes out of the shop.
Yeah, the whipping is the coolest. I remember as a kid, my dad had some old persimmons, and I used to run my finger as a kid, up and down.
Yeah.
It was like it was until he told me to stop, and I was like, okay, fine. It was highly satisfying.
It's a lost skill. I mean, to address the question, is there anything that we would like to see make a comeback that could be applicable for modern building? I mean, really, not that I can think of, other than
leather wrap grips is cool though.
Leather wrap grips are cool, but I mean, the pain in the ass it is to change those.
Yes.
And take those off of a golf club when they've been on there too long. I mean, you need a friggin' blowtorch and about 10 minutes of grip to scrape that off. Like, hard pass. Give me a hook knife and a rubber grip and a air compressor, and I'm good. I don't want to bring back the leather grips, RB. Let's just 86 it. Gene? Commentary?
I had to do all that stuff in the 70s. I was a golf pro kid, and I had to I was told, unlike you, Jay Wall, that if you rubbed it too long, you'd go blind. But I whipping and putting on those grips, I hated all that stuff because it was just brutal and it required such accuracy, and you could screw it up so easily. I love the modern processes, but I love the modern processes of everything in golf. I'm not a sentimentalist, so sorry. That's what you get with me.
Gene, I gotta
go ahead, Kris. Sorry,
I was just gonna ask, totally unrelated question. Are you on an iPad or your phone or something?
No, I'm on my laptop.
Is it a MacBook?
Yeah.
Hey, do me a favor and go like this.
Oh, did I do it? Did I
did it? Yeah. No, like this. Do the rock and roll.
Is that what it does?
No, there's
there's some magic.
No, it was when he did the thumbs up.
This doesn't make great radio.
No, that just encourages people to go to our YouTube.
You have to go to our YouTube page. I make unintentional sparkles and all kinds of weird shit on this thing that I have no idea how I'm doing it.
There's hand gestures. My wife looked this up, and there are hand gestures that you can do on iOS devices, like a peace sign and thumbs down and thumbs up.
Now I'm just going to be spazzing. I don't know
what to do with my hands.
Yeah, it makes like stuff happen on the screen. I mean, here we are, a bunch of 40-somethings and Gene, and it talking about new technology. Okay, off the rails. All refocus.
Right. RB, get us back on track.
Well, I was gonna say, Gene was talking so much about like technology and like he likes the modern processes, and for people who want like highly accurate builds, a great place where you can get highly accurate builds and the world's most extensive collection of aftermarket shafts and custom equipment built to tour level specifications is at fairwayjockey.com. We're talking, you got quotes up to 20% less than the standard pricing you're going to get from some of the big box club fitters out there. And if you use code Fully Equipped, that is FULLYEQUIPPED, you can take an extra 10% off of your order. And not only that, Fairway Jockey carries all of these small batch and limited releases from all of your favorite brands, including Scotty Cameron, Cobra, Callaway, TaylorMade. It's all there, so you can go check it out. Again, that's fairwayjockey.com for all of your custom building with all those highly technical gadgets in the shop there. You can check that out there. So if you're interested in all, as again too, that limited edition gear stuff, I haven't checked, but I think those Cobra limited 3D irons are coming out very, very soon. So might be a good place to check out.
There we go. All right, Coach. Hit us with the next one.
I don't even think RB realized that he was transitioning into this next question, which is about 3D printed clubs and the metal dust that creates them.
Hey guys, Rob Lucky from the Bay Area again. After listening to the Cobra Limited pod, this has got to be the nerdiest question I've had. Talking about 3D printing and the metal dust that's used to make those irons. Is the future going to be that there's going to be different kinds of dust, like one metal dust with tungsten mixed in? So instead of having tungsten weight plugs, that they're going to be able to fuse a different dust together so that the tungsten's already mixed into the iron where they need it instead of having those plugs. Thanks.
Oh man, we're really going down the rabbit hole here. I can't imagine that that's going to happen. I think that the tungsten slugs are still going to be around. I mean, maybe tungsten like fused in there. It sounds like a really cool idea. Makes me want to give Mike Yagley a call and see. Although he might just give me a wink and a nod or tell me to screw off. So it's kind of a coin flip.
So I had an interesting conversation with him the day after we recorded. Just told him that he's a big time listener, and he was telling me, and I don't know the answer to it, but it was really fascinating because I was like, how feasible is this? And he said this technology it's not changing daily, but it's changing like monthly or quarterly. Like there are rapid advancements in this technology. So, the callers I started thinking about it. I mean, there are some metallurgical probably limitations, and you can't blend certain materials together, but I guarantee you that they've thought about it and approached it. And Mike was just telling me, he's like, yeah, he was pretty high on the future as far as the potential of this. So I wouldn't discard any kind of, ideas at this point or theories, because we're gonna see some wild stuff coming out of that technology.
I think what makes it difficult is if again too, we talk about the construction of the Cobra iron as the example, and that is what allows it to be strong is the homogeneous nature of the material, is that they use one material. And it's the same when they do car parts and they do the webbing inside of the car parts to reduce weight. The reason that works is because they are using one material that allows it to be strong. Now, that same strength that you're creating for a golf club isn't exactly the same thing, because you're looking for mass properties rather than weight savings. So you're doing weight savings in one piece, but then you're getting mass properties by using multi-materials. So as of right now, the way those printers work, you can't just put something in it to fill out a small portion of a club or of a part. Let's call it just like that, being a part as it is. But it doesn't mean that it's not possible to, at some point, maybe put it into a different machine and use something else to go through the process. But that, I think what the goal is there is, does it make a demonstrable difference to use the technology to create an advantage? With 3D printing, the advantage is you get the feel, but you get the forgiveness of a golf club that is smaller. But if you do it with the other way, like, is there a demonstrable difference? And I think we see this with drivers, like when they went from titanium to carbon, and some companies use carbon, some companies went to different titaniums, all of those different things. They had to make a decision, an engineering decision of, does this work? Can we actually apply it, or does it make a big difference? And I think that is where you have to draw the line of, where does this actually factor in? But again, as of right now, it's not the case, but it doesn't mean that it won't be for sure. It's a very good question, because I know we think of things all the time about, like, will a tiny GPS ever fit on your waist and track your golf stats? And it's like, well, no, a GPS fits in my car and it's this big and I have to update it every single time. And it's like, no, now it's on my phone with a camera and I can record video and I can edit video and I can do all these things on something that is literally the size of my wallet. So, I'm not going to say that nothing's possible.
Yeah.
And I would say the technology itself is so new that the applications are almost limitless. I mean, you look at, just to kind of tip of the cap to Callaway with the AI smart face. if you take a similar design and you have, let's just say, however many thousands of examples of input that you can say, okay, my player has a tendency to have this miss pattern, has this strike location on the face, and now through the precision of 3D printing, design a face, a sole, a leading edge, and just an overall head design with the appropriate amount of offset that also appeals to the player's like visual biases. I mean, you could go way down the rabbit hole with how custom you could make a 3D printed iron. And I mean, you have some of the existing OEMs that talk about each head being engineered independently for a specific purpose. I mean, you could take that 2 or 3 steps further with this 3D printing technology when it comes to the application of designing long irons independently from mid, independently from short, and then customize each one of those irons in the individual categories to the player's preferences and like ball flight and strike location. And it's awesome what you can do with this tech.
Yeah. I think the big piece of this that, and this happens with every type of groundbreaking technology, regardless of what industry it's in, is how do you make it cheaper to produce?
Yeah,
Because
scale
currently right now we're at the point where, Cobra even said it. This is a $3,000 set of irons. I mean, that's actually pretty reasonable considering what they're doing. They're moving that direction, but how do you make this technology get to a point where it becomes a lot more reasonable to buy a set of 3D printed irons? Now, here's something that what the hell? Why not? I'll open up this box. What the hell happens when 3D printing becomes more economical? How does that just open up the doors for more manufacturers to enter the space? Is that going to be like the end of the blue bloods? How do you?
No, because you still have to do the R&D. And so just
I know,
having
but what if you
access,
got like a smart boutique shop with like a dude from MIT who
but I mean, there's a reason that I still sell robots. That finite element analysis, it doesn't seem to match actually hitting the product and seeing it. Eventually it will. Eventually I'll be out of business. Hopefully I'll be dead by then. But it's like you still there's theory versus reality there in design. And so you could be a hot shot with a 3D printer, but you also need the history behind you of what has worked, what has not worked from a material standpoint. So I do think that the major OEMs will always have a leg up. But what I really like is what Kris said, and that's really fascinating, is if it becomes economical and you can kind of one off it to a specific player's characteristics. I mean, I was trying to remember, maybe you guys can help me with this. Like, what was the most expensive set of irons when PXG came out? Was it $2,000, 2,500?
Yeah, like 2,500.
Right.
Yeah, I
So
think those were like 2,500.
So the market would bear that, and that was a set of irons that were mass produced. Imagine 2,500 or 2,000 for an individualized set that was designed to your specific characteristics. That's where it gets interesting from an economic standpoint, J-Wall, that you were talking about. Is I do see a high-end market that's like, you're telling me that I could get a custom set and my 4-iron is always my weakest club, and I always hit it out on the toe. And now I can all of a sudden get a little bit more loft, a little bit lower CG, and a little bit more mass out there to help get that ball in the air and, start doing these things. I think people would fork over money for that. It kind of screws up the resale market a little bit because you've got a specific set, but it really is intriguing. And if what Mike Yagley was talking about, that keep your eyes on the future, it may be something that's really interesting to look at. I mean, I can't even imagine how much I'd geek out on that, being able to test different launch conditions, strike points, and things like that to, come up with a matrix for that. But yeah, it's a really cool thought.
All right, Coach. Let's what do we want to do? A couple more, 2, 3 more? How many you got?
We can do let's call it 3 more, I think.
Okay.
We'll go
let's do
from
3 more.
we'll go from 3D printing to white belt etiquette.
What's the pod stance on white belts these days? I've heard that there's the rule of 36. If you're over the age of 36 or your waist is bigger than a 36, you shouldn't wear a white belt. Fashion Sense says that the belt matches the shoes as well as the handbag if you carry a handbag. But I got a lot of white golf shoes. I don't have any white belts. I'm 50 and my waist is a 35. What are your thoughts? Have a great day. By the way, Brett from Charlotte, OG listener, 3rd time caller. Bye.
White belt.
We do in
White
fashion
belt
advice because
etiquette.
I'll tell you, I first of all, I think that wear whatever you feel like, whatever makes you comfy. I'm going to lay it right on the line. You want to wear some baggy ass Malbon stuff? Knock yourself out. You want to paint something on like old school Jesper Parnevik playing Jay Lindbergh stuff? Have at it.
Hell, we're both.
You want to dress like
Malbon
Ricky
and
Fowler? I've seen that in too many tournaments. Go ahead. Whatever makes you happy. That being said, all right, I don't think the white belt's dead. I am a former white belt man myself. I have transitioned to those nice elasticy woven ones. Game changer. Let me tell you. I used to think all those tour players out there, I'm like, why are they wearing these things? Got myself one of those. Now I got 3 of them, folks. So if you need to transition out of there and you're getting a little older, maybe you're like me, you're over 36, and you want to transition from your white belt game, I highly suggest one of those flexible little elasticy ones. Yeah, that's my go-to. But if you feel like wearing it, just wear it and be happy. At least that's my 2 cents.
I rocked a white belt for a long time. And I finally, when I started working for True Spec, there are quite a few fashion forward guys that work for this company, and a lot of the sneakerheads and guys that are just way more hip and cool than I am. And now I'm pushing 42 and I retired the white belt a few years ago. And it was the one that kind of broke the camel's back for me. Was I had a 20 something come up and just totally dog my white belt and called me out and told me in my 30s that I was too old to be wearing a white belt and I needed to hang it up. And like RB said, I felt so defeated and went and purchased 4 next belts that are elastic, adjustable, and have like this ratchet strap in them that you can wear them with all kinds of different stuff. And I came home and told my wife what had happened, and she goes, "Does that mean you're not going to wear the white belt anymore?" And I said, "Yeah, I feel really like called out on it." And she goes, "Oh, thank God." And that was like eye opening. And I was like, "Wait, what the hell? What are you talking about?" And she was like, "I hate the white belt. I hate the white pants. I hate the white belt with the white pants." He goes, let's just get rid of the white pants and the white belt. And I'm going, wow, I'll be damned. Like, oh, okay then. And that was like the wake up call that I needed to go, hey, as a now 40 something and not the most athletic individual as far as the physique goes, no more white belt for me.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the white belt. This game is difficult as it is. You don't need to be thinking about what you're wearing on the golf course. Kind of like RB said, if you want to wear the Malbon stuff, wear it. If you want to wear the Jay Lindbergh stuff, you want to wear a white belt, whatever. I don't care. Nobody's. I will not criticize you if you were in my foursome and you're wearing a white belt. You're good. So
you just better be able to play.
Yeah,
Gene's over there wearing his white belt right now, going, "Shut the hell up."
That's why he's leaning forward. He's trying to conceal his white belt.
No, man, I'm from California. I wear white after Labor Day. I wear white whenever I want. I don't give a rat's ass. And he shouldn't either. Wear the damn belt. Who cares? Don't let those punk kids tell you what to do. Live your own life. Be your own man.
Words to live by from Uncle Gene. All right, next question.
All right, we'll get a couple of technical ones to finish us off here. This one's centered around small components.
Hi guys, this is Matt out in Marin County, California. Love everything you guys are doing. Entertain me on these long drives I have around California. Very much appreciated. I guess I just would love to hear your points of view on some of the other smaller component guys out there. Since you covered the OEMs really well. The Nakashimas, KZG, Wishon, Vega, there are others. But yeah, any insights you have, good, bad, or otherwise, I'd love to hear your perspective. Thanks so much.
So he's talking more like DTC brands.
Yep.
It seemed like a lot of JDM stuff as well with like the Vega
yeah,
and
and I
things
was
like
gonna say,
that.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, RB, that seems to kind of be your wheelhouse. You're big on like the more obscure stuff. Like, what are your thoughts?
I mean, there's a lot of really good gear out there. There's just a lot of times there's smaller companies that are targeting either specific players or price point or fitters or whoever it happens to be, like a network of fitters. I know Wishon was always, they had like their like built-in network of fitters, and they were very specific in their design philosophies. It wasn't like, I wouldn't say they were going out of their way to design, super like tour player level golf clubs, right? A lot of stuff wouldn't even come in like lower lofts. They were designing clubs for more of like quote unquote the average golfers. And then you have stuff like Vega, which has everything from blades, which I got a set kicking around somewhere. It's all packed up right now. To like larger cavity back golf clubs. And they're made in very high quality facilities. It's just, you don't hear so much about them because it's a marketing game, right? It becomes down to marketing a lot of this stuff. And so there is a lot of really, really good components out there that just don't get kind of the same amount of love. I don't know who it is. Someone keeps messaging me on Instagram all the time. Like, have you tried any of the Maltby gear? And they're like, and I've seen it. Like I haven't seen it in person, but like I've used to play, like I played Snake Eyes irons for like the longest time, because I was a kid that, I either bought clubs used and kind of guess what I was going to use or kind of get fit and then hopefully find something. Or I would order them online from Golfsmith and build my own golf clubs because I could, and it would save me a ton of money. And it was a way for me to like experiment and be involved in my hobby. And, it would cost me like $450 to build an iron set, which at the time was still a lot of money when you're like 16, 17 years old. So there is a lot of really good gear out there. It just comes down to how are you going to, like, where are you going to find it? How are you going to find it? Another one, I think it's a Japanese company. It's like A Grind. Got a set of those too. They're a Japanese company. They are sick. They're such a cool little CB iron. And like, there's just a lot of really, really good options, especially when it comes to forged one-piece irons, because it's probably one of the easiest clubs to manufacture. So now you're looking at what do you want for offset looks, not necessarily material. What do you want for your lofts? You can find super strong loft irons out there. Like 14 has the TB 7, which is like a mega strong lofted, like small cavity back iron. I picked the pitching wedge is like 44, 43, but that's a small forged iron. Those things go like stink. They got ball speed because it's a solid forged golf club and it's got a strong loft on it. So whatever you're looking for, it's out there. And I think if you're seeing it and, you're probably seeing some of the prices that are being charged on this stuff, in most cases, the reason it's justified is because they're making them in small quantities. They are high quality gear. It's just they don't have the marketing dollars behind it.
Yeah, I would echo that.
The marketing
RB.
dollars. Yep, I would agree. Marketing dollars not behind it.
100%. One of my first clients was KZG actually, and I got to know him and see and talk to him about their foundries and I work occasionally with some of these smaller manufacturers. They build good stuff. I mean, but at the end of the day, they're taking a different path, and it's a very niche market, but it's the way that I would describe it is, I mean, we obviously talk about the majors quite a bit, and we test the majors because that's the universe that we're in. But if you're interested in something different, or you want to just, you you're not a conformist, it's worth going and checking out. And it's just as simple as, make sure you do your research, make sure you have a reputable fitter who wherever you go, and
Assuming you can
ask a
find
lot-
them to test. That's the thing.
yeah, no. It's a very valid point. But I know, like through KZG, they've got a ton of distributors, and they're usually small retailers that offer these products. And I think the key is, you don't want to go to a retailer that only offers their products. You want to go to a retailer that offers multiple products, and just like at True Spec, compare and contrast. And that's the only way to be fit, period, is, to test a number of different products and see which one feels the best. But I wouldn't necessarily, reject them out of hand just because they don't have the advertising budgets of, the majors.
No, for sure. But yeah, just getting your hands on them without having to actually buy a set. That's the
Yes,
the
100%.
difficulty at times, because you have to commit to buying a set and they may
Yep.
not work. Whereas, the major OEMs have, like, if you go to a True Spec, you're going to find them, as I call them, the equipment blue bloods. You're going to find them there, and you can test them out, and you'll find something you like, but you've been able to check it off with a certified club fitter, and it's you know what you're getting. But that's the tough part. And if you got the money to spend, yeah, go for it. Some of those are probably going to beat some of the big names, but it's just going to take a little bit of fingers crossing and deep pockets. All right, Coach, next one.
All right, we'll finish up with a question on shaft weight versus flex.
It is Tim from Cincinnati. Question is about shaft weight versus flex. Tend to have better ball striking with my son's clubs versus mine. I have a heavier shaft, KBS 120 stiff. My sons are XP 95 regular. I hit his club so much better. My question is, have you seen this in fittings with higher handicaps? Be striking the ball better with lighter shafts? Would counterbalancing my shafts, my heavier shafts, maybe give the same effect, help with ball striking? Just for reference, swing my driver 108 all out, swinging out of my shoes, about 102, good smooth swing. That's all I got. Thanks.
Mr.
RB.
Fitter,
I was going to say, you want to take the first crack, or you want me to get it?
you go ahead. You go right ahead there, Kris.
Okay. So, I mean, what basically the conversation that I always have with guys is, when you're looking at shaft fitting at its essence, what is it? What is a golf shaft? It's a timing mechanism, right? So weight is generally the most important component that I am looking at. And weight as it pertains to flex, there's a couple of different approaches or ways to look at it. If I had a 50, 60, 70, 80 gram shaft that was same manufacturer, same bend profile, and they were all labeled as a stiff. So the amount of material that's required to build the 80 gram shaft versus the 70 versus the 60 versus the 50, obviously the more material that you start to use to build the shaft is going to compromise your feel. So feel is something that is completely subjective to the individual. So when you're talking about shaft fitting, weight and bend profile as it complements the player's natural movement pattern, how it is that they load a shaft, release a shaft, is going to be kind of prioritized on my list of importance when it comes to fitting. Now, when you're talking about potentially counterbalancing or modifying the shaft that you have to try and impact the feel, I would say that is, minimalistically having any effect whatsoever. So the shaft itself, I would say start from scratch. Don't try and reinvent the wheel with shafts that you already have, because you already know what that feel is in relationship to stiffness and timing, and get fit for something that is potentially lighter, but also the proper bend profile to complement what it is that you're doing naturally with your swing.
To echo Kris there, the one thing that to the counterbalancing thing, you're adding weight to something that's already heavy. So if you're struggling with speed or something, like, the likelihood that you're going to see a benefit is pretty low. The only time you see this is with something like a lot of lightweight clubs, like you see it with Zexio clubs. They have a small counterbalance in there, and they're already lightweight because they're designed to create a very, very light feel, higher balance point for those. Again, you already have something lightweight, so it's, even when you add counterbalance, it's still a very lightweight golf club. Higher balance point for some slower swing speed players can help them achieve a little bit more club head speed. But as far as irons is concerned, the biggest thing with again, to the point of Kris made, and to add to it, is that weight also has an impact on the flex of the golf club. So with steel, lighter steel shafts are naturally more flexible. Heavier steel shafts are naturally stiffer. Just the same thing with like a standard, which they really don't make anymore. It's hard to find them. Is like a standard R300 is still like 122 gram shaft, and they call it a regular. But that's closer to like an S300 or an X100 than finding an 80 gram stiff or extra stiff shaft, because of the weight that's already in it. So then it comes down to how you feel that mass in your hands and how it pulls you. Heavy golf clubs, ever see a junior with, and this guy just ever see a junior with clubs that are too heavy? They get their really long backswing and they get it pull through in the follow through, right? Like that is, go look at early versions of Paula Kramer's swing or Natalie Gulbis's swing, two prime examples of golfers that used clubs that were way too heavy when they were kids, and that's both players struggle with back problems. John Daly probably got a little stronger than those ladies, which is why he was able to maintain this very, very long backswing for a very long time, because the club was too heavy, and that's just naturally where it got him to, and that's just, it continued on for the rest of his life. So they're both vitally important, but they are always intermingled. It's very difficult to say I'm going to play a 50 gram X Flex and then go to an 80 gram X Flex, because I'll tell you right now, they're not the same shaft. It can be very, very difficult to find those things that work and compare them. So shaft weight literally is, to me, one of the most important things. I can play 120 gram shaft in a regular and an extra stiff. Well, not so much the extra stiff, but a regular and a stiff, and they play almost the same for me because of my tempo, and that I know that weight works for me. If I get too heavier than that, I struggle, and I think most players do as they get into the heavier stuff. So for your example, going into that 95 gram shaft, that's probably the weight range. Just, you kind of done your own little mini fitting there. You could probably find 3 or 4 shafts in that weight range that are going to work very well. And then from there, it's just finding the feel and the flex, and maybe it's the material even. Maybe it could be graphite or steel in that weight range that's going to help you achieve the best results. And that just not only applies to you, that applies to any player out there.
Man, I'm so glad I have you guys around to answer the technical questions.
Say, I have my own kind of view on flex. Hey, do you guys want me to chime in on that?
I mean, always. Yes. Yes.
So, I mean, my explanation to players on flex is there is no industry standard for flex. So how companies measure quote unquote flex is completely proprietary based upon the manufacturer that you're dealing with. So one company's stiff could be another company's regular, could be another company's extra stiff, and so on and so forth. So, where RB was talking about balance points in the shaft, and where I'm talking about bend profile, I'm referring to microsections within the shaft and where it flexes, how it flexes. So referring to handle section, midsection, tip section, and how those particular sections respond as the player swings it. So I get so many players that come in with this preconceived notion that they play a quote unquote 65 gram stiff flex. or, oh, I play a 60X, and they have this idea in their mind that if they play anything other than a 60X, it is the quote unquote wrong shaft. And that's where I have to have the explanation of there is no industry standard. And the reason that there's not an industry standard and won't ever be an industry standard is because then shaft manufacturers would have to admit they've been doing it wrong. So working with a fitter and having the conversation as to what weight, length, and bend profile complement you as a player, that's the appropriate shaft to play, regardless of what the letter on the side of the shaft says. Okay, I'm done.
There we go. That's actually a very good point, and it needed to be said. So thank you, serial killer. All right, with that, let's wrap up episode 243 of Fully Equipped. But hey, before we do, we got to pick a winner, and I'm not picking this winner by myself. So everybody's got to pick one. Who are you going with? There's going to be some recency bias here, I'm sure, from the questions from today's pod.
I still like the spin question from last week. I mean, there were some great questions this week. I was still a big fan of the spin question from last week because it is a topic that a lot of golfers don't understand, and I think it was a good inquiry. So I'm gonna stick with spin.
Uncle Gene.
So, as the moderator, give me. Are we talking funny? Or are we talking informative?
Either one.
Come on! You got to give me some direction.
Bob from SC won a set of Titleist irons on this podcast for calling in with one of the most hilarious voicemails. So you can go either direction. It can be funny or it can be serious. I don't really care.
I to be honest, I got to go with RB in the spin question, and just the main reason is it's such an important topic that's so misunderstood, and I think we did a deep dive and hopefully educated our audience in the process.
Or just confuse them even more.
Yeah, that too.
That too. Serial killer, which way are you going?
Man, I was bummed after I listened to last week's pod that I wasn't able to jump on with you guys. I was up in the Hamptons at Atlantic Golf Club, working with the the one percenters with their gear, and I listened to last week's pod, and that question came up, and I was like, "Damn it! I really wanted to chime in with my 2 cents," and I was bummed I missed that one, but. I mean, I've got to say that was and you guys fielded it really well. So the explanations and conversation that sparked was really good. So, I mean, gold star for that. But I would say that question was probably the best one, in my opinion. I gotta side with Gene and RB. As much as I hate to be on the same side as Gene here, it's that's going to get my vote as well.
All right, Matt from Michigan. He wins in a runaway. I'll be honest. I was really close to changing it up this week and going with Brad from Tennessee because he called out Bob from SC. But the spin question, it's a good one. It's thought provoking, and it's probably a question that a lot of just regular golfers have. That
Absolutely
they hear all kinds of. They hear the word spinny, and it's attached to different things, not just to the golf ball. And it's a very good question and one that it's worth asking. So anyway, congrats to Matt from Michigan. I'll be reaching out to you. I have your phone number. That's scary. And we'll get your shipping details, and I will ship you this Cobra Dark Speed Volition driver. Congratulations on the win. All right, and with that, let's wrap up episode 243 of Fully Equipped. As always, if you want more social goodness from us, check us out. We are on Instagram at Fully Equipped Golf. At Fully Equipped Golf is also our YouTube handle. And if you're not following us on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We will love you for it. We give out tons of free gear, man. If you just do that, you're probably going to get something free along the way. I can almost guarantee that. What else we got? Oh, yeah, and the Twitters. At Fully_Equipped. And the Twitters. Thanks as always for listening to us ramble for 1 hour and 14 minutes. My goodness. We're always good for something, and that is rambling. Thanks as always for listening. We'll see you next week.